let's go ahead and pivot into that article. And I sent this to you guys this morning as soon as I saw it to see if this was overblown or if this was actually what I thought it was. And it really is I would say, the Loper is kind of trash in my opinion. It's kind of a shill site, in my opinion, but they're not speaking very well of what Amazon has done to the Lord of the Rings of Power trilogy.
I was surprised, to be honest, because as you say, this is the first time we've seen kind of a mainstream, shill site, I think it's fair to say, really have something negative to say, or at least acknowledge that what the fans are saying, maybe they've got a point, which is an interesting way. And we're still a long way off getting the Amazon Lord of the Rings. So I'm curious as to see, is this going to be a pattern that we're going to see, or is this going to be a one-off?
To echo the sentiment of what Purple is saying, it's definitely becoming more of a widely known aspect or viewpoint that people are now kind of, I don't want to say waking up to, but in a way they are, because more and more they continually are seeing, I guess not the failure of Amazon's part, but like if you go to the trailer right now, if I'm a normie, all I see is those comments, and I'm going to start going, what's this all about? And I'm going to start looking into it. And what I think more people are coming to the realization of is Amazon doing this for the purpose of creating another Lord of the Rings series, or are they just doing this to create more divide within fandoms?
Nathan, you read this, and this is one of the first things you said to me when we went in the green room was your perspective on what they were saying in this article. What did you think?
I thought that they were asking all the same questions that we were. As I'm scrolling down here, my very first question after that trailer was, what's with the antlers? And that's literally one of the questions in here. The other thing, too, is after that Vanity Fair article, the question about writing the novels that Tolkien couldn't. And they actually address this as, that's a pretty unlikely event to occur, considering you haven't written anything. They question that. How modern will the story be? Will it be too Jacksonian? Which, you know what? It could do being Jacksonian, in my opinion.
Yes, I'll take it. I'll take that at this point, absolutely. Yes.
Right. They've completely bleached Jackson out of it.
If that's the worst thing that you're going to do is to make it so it looks like Peter Jackson, I'm not entirely sure what the problem is. I'm just not.
No one would ever have the complaint of like, ugh, this looks too much like Peter Jackson's films. Like, who would ever? Like, what kind of complaint would that be? Like, ugh, it looks too gorgeous.
What's crazy about this, and you can find it on Looper, Loper, whatever the hell this thing is called, but they're all asking the same questions that we have. People are worried about the CGI. This is literally from the article. It says, on the other hand, we have the teaser trailer, which has drawn the ire of many fans due to its poorly received CGI. The CGI wasn't great, but I think a lot more of us were worried about the fact we weren't seeing people we expected to see in the second age.
I think the CGI, it was in the back of people's minds, but as you say, we were more concerned with the overall trailer. This is the first time that they could actually show us what they were working on and really get the fans hyped, and what we got was not a lot of anything, really. We didn't really know who the characters were. They didn't introduce them very well. We had a very odd voiceover, and it was just scene after scene after scene after scene that really didn't mean anything to anybody.
It didn't feel like Tolkien. It felt like we were watching something from Disney Marvel. Even this leftist shill article says, quote, from Gladriel climbing a cliff to encounter a weird troll thing, there's more than one point in that footage where the CGI isn't doing Amazon any favors. Of course, it's just promotional footage. It's entirely possible they still have work to do to clean up those scenes before they're released. Still, what we've seen so far is anything but reassuring. These are not my words. I am reading from an article, and I don't do that. I normally try and editorialize it, but in this case, this is them saying the same thing we got called racist bigots at all over.
Yes, and Amazon have gone on over and over how expensive and how much money they're spending on this, and how they're going to bring Middle Earth back to life. But are they really? CGI is a tool. It should be used to enhance. The reason why Jackson's Lord of the Rings did so well is because Weta did practical effects. You know, if you think of the miniatures that they built, or the bigatures, as they, I think, were affectionately renamed, because some of them were 70 feet tall. But that's how they did it. They put the work in and the effort. And you guys were talking earlier about the tapestries in the background that were handmade, and talking about the armor that they made. All of this stuff that love went into, and I'm not seeing it with this Amazon.
I think it would be funny if people are complaining about the CGI just because we've, you know, hey, as a diehard Lord of the Ring fan, even I can admit the scene where Frodo is like, you know, the CGI scene where it's like that dream sequence and Elrond is speaking and Frodo is sleeping or something, and it's like the white and everything. Awful, terrible CGI. Like, what were they thinking? So, and we can acknowledge that and go, that was funny, but that was 2001, you know?
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
But we're talking about 2021 with people who, you know, are being paid very, very well to do this and have lots of times on their hands to make this. And like you said, Purple, it is there to enhance and not to become a crutch to a lot of these creators. I think Lord of the Rings fans can handle bad CGI. They're more intellectually minded and are thinking of the story. But yes, we are seeing a lot of people now, especially in this article, bringing up the same points that we have brought up for years now, but they're now the heroes and we're still the bad guys, you know? Doesn't make sense.
For me, just to make it about me, because why not? I watch those, I cycle through those 3 movies nonstop. Like I do, I'll watch sometimes 10 minutes, sometimes, you know, an hour, and then stop, and then just because, you know, it's such a fun timeline we live in, you just need to go and hang out with hobbits for a while. But there's a scene where Gollum's jumping a rock to go after a fish and he looks like a cartoon. No, I just see Gollum going after a fish jumping on a rock because I'm immersed in the story, like Max talked about, like Purple talked about. I see those things as part of the character of the film. Like it just makes it that more authentic, that more human, that more organic. And I don't know, maybe that's just because I'm Gen X and came from a very different way of living and seeing the world. But Gray, what do you think?
Have you got? How long have you got? So you're like, I've got a list here. No, I'm just kidding. The CGI didn't really bother me. I wasn't looking for that. I'm a big fan of practical effects, I think, like most people. And I don't mind CGI when it's done well. But, you know, when you have an over-reliance on CGI, like maybe the Hobbit movies did, it went a bit too much into it, and it just didn't look as good as the original trilogy. You know, there's not much comparison to it, is there? As you said, when you start watching Two Towers or Return of the King these days, you try and put it on for 10 minutes, and then like 2 hours later, you're halfway through the movie. It's so good, you get so pulled in, and I just can't see that in the trailer for, what's it called, Lollipop, Lord of the Rings of Power.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and Purple Prophet of the Dragon is saying what I've heard you say before when we've talked about this, is that there were a bunch of close-ups, like we knew who we were supposed to be looking at, and as a follow-up to that, I'll add, we got no big open landscapes.
Yes.
We got no sweeping Shire. We got no Mordor. We got no Rohan. What we did get was a picture in Vanity Fair of them shooting a boat scene in a studio. Like, I don't care. Like, that is a waste of space. It is a demotivator. You want to get me excited about Lord of the Rings? Show me the mountains. Show me Numenor. Show me all of these things. Show me the crafting of the ring. Show me the freaking story. That's all I want. Instead, we got half the damn trailer was 3 characters that Payne and McKay wrote, not Tolkien. We got Arondir, the elf, the first Puerto Rican Lord of the Rings actor. I'm using their words. I'm not being derogatory for representation. We got Princess Diza, who is apparently a shorter version of some type of a gospel singer in Khazad-dûm, because that's what Tolkien needs. And then, of course, you know, we've got the single mother who's, you know, probably disenfranchised by Tolkienian capitalism. We got that thing. It's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. And I reach a certain point where I start raving like this, but I don't know. I just, it's just what's baffling to me again is that this is a shill site that loves everything. They love everything, and they are sounding like the very people that Payne and McKay not too long ago, 3 or 4 weeks ago, said had a problem with strong independent women, had a problem with diversity, were all racist, and instead, apparently the Loper can skate.
Yes, absolutely. And like I say, I will be curious to see if they stick with this perspective, if this is something they will continue with, or whether they're going to go back to kissing Amazon's ass and saying how great it is and how progressive it is and everything that as we get more and more information drops about the show.
As ever, this is Salty Texas Sea. I am Corey DB. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you've seen and heard, please hit that thumbs up button. If you haven't subscribed, I'd love to have you on board. That way you know, and we have things like live streams, which we are now going to be doing every Tuesday evening. Take care. I hope you're having a great 2022.